Hi, Gina, are you people able to see the live stream?
Dr. Hema, there is a message. There's a message that meeting is now streaming live on custom live streaming service.
Sir, is the meeting streaming live? Just wanted to check.
It is set for 3 o'clock now. That is why it is not 3 o'clock.
Good afternoon, Sister Jessie.
Yes. Good afternoon. I'm here.
Yeah, yes.
Good afternoon.
Set for 3 o'clock now. That is why it is not 3 o'clock.
Good afternoon, Sister Jessie.
Yes. Good afternoon. Yes. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sister Jessie.
Set for 3 o'clock.
Yes. Can you hear me? I'm here.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Set for 3 o'clock now. That is why Sister Jessie.
Yes.
It started.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Dr. Hema, I think there is some error in, we are able to re-record the same thing. The same phrases have been re-recorded.
Madam, what is happening?
We are able to hear the same phrases as re-recorded.
No, that is because we have scheduled it at 3 o'clock, no?
Right, okay.
I think it will start. We can stop the. I'll just stop. Oh, no. Saroja madam, is
Yes.
anything disabled? Because no participants are in.
There are participants. I can see 11 participants.
No, no, but I'm sure there are more
Yes.
people. Disabled? Because no participants are in.
There are participants. I can see 11 participants.
No, no, but I'm sure there are more people. Because no participants are in. Why it is?
There are participants. I can see 11 participants.
Saroja madam.
No, I have not disabled anything.
Are in.
I can see 11 participants.
No, no, but I'm sure there are more.
No, I have not disabled anything. There are participants. I can see 11 participants. People are joining. I can see people are joining. Any problem?
No, it's okay. I think because that is going in background.
Dr. Hema, do you have any security icon on your toolbar?
Why, madam?
Because Jessie is trying, Lissy is trying to say that is there any security option that we have disabled or?
No, I have not disabled anything.
You need to enable because see, certain people are asking for admitting.
Yeah, I enabled the waiting room. I have enabled the waiting room.
Okay.
I have not done anything here.
Now one person joined.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are joining. Now we are 14.
Yeah, people are joining.
Yeah.
Saroja madam, we can start at 3:05, no? Or 3, exactly at 3.
As you say, we give that 5 minutes for people to
Join in.
join in.
Continuous mixing already 2 dose update.
They want the final certificate only.
Final certificate.
मैम ये लैब टेस्ट है
सर यू हैव टू टेक फर्स्ट
ये मॉर्निंग में बुलाया डॉक्टर इधर तो मॉर्निंग में कितना बजे आना पड़ेगा मैम फर्स्ट ही है
First we have sugar, no?
हाँ तो
Dr. Hema will be muting people who are.
Yes, yes, madam.
Yeah. Shall I begin? I think we
Yes,
are at,
ma'am. Yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
we are at 3:05. Good afternoon to one and all. It is I, Saroja Jaikumar, the chairperson of the Nursing Service section under the TNAI KSB. Take this privilege of being the moderator for today's session. It's the first series of the initiative the TNAI KSB has taken, titled as Championing and Advocating Professional Development. This was a seed that was sown in all of us, considering that there is a constant need for us to grow, be it the young and dynamic nurses of the present or the leaders or the expert who are already into the highest position. There's a lot of learning that we need to keep taking, and then we need to abreast ourselves. So in view of this, I really appreciate TNAI KSB for thinking in advance that we need to move digitally for a healthcare transformation. I really thank our president, TNAI KSB, Dr. A.T.S. Giri. I also thank Dr. Hemlata, being the secretary of the TNAI KSB, Dr. Larissa, the vice president, and all the EC members who are all aligned to the thought of having this kind of an initiative, which is, I think we are heading into the right direction. Now, the first thought that we were looking into what can be the apt topic or the opinion that we sought was, what can sow the right seed of having a heart-to-heart conversation? We have been seeing a lot of PPTs, We have been reading quite an amount of webinar contents and everything. But can we hear to each one of the people or the resource person conversing from their heart? It is from the heart, from us to you and from you to us, so that we will have a mutual conversation to understand what is this profession going through and how are we heading into the better future and how can we create the best platform for our young nurses. So the first series that we are going to begin today will have two significant resource persons who would be sharing their live experience that they have gone through in the past pandemic. I think pandemic has given us a lot of lessons, and each one of us have got stories to speak about it. But we have today, we have two expert people who have gone through an experience, and they are going to put forth to us their experience that we can pick up anything that is specific. I call upon Sister Jacinta D'Souza. Sister Jessie, if you can come on video.
I'm there already.
Yeah. Welcome, Sister Jessie. It was my privilege to really listen to your YouTube experience. And I thought if we could really combine it with the kind of a webinar that we are looking into to our youngsters, they would have missed it. I don't know how many would have seen through it or heard through it. But having you as a person for this first series of webinar of championing and advocating professional development, who else other than you who has fought the COVID and won over and is able to sit in front of all of us and share your experience at every phase of that, the near deathbed. I think I give this platform to you to speak from your heart. There may be a few questions that I'll ask you. And if the participants are having any questions, we will leave it at the last, that is between 4 to 4:15. We will have the slots for the participants if they would want to deep dive into getting to know your true experience. However, I leave this platform for you to share your experience of how you got into this disease and what went through your mind as you were going through every stage of your recovery. Yes, sister.
Thank you, Ma'am Sarja and TNAI KSB for giving me this opportunity to sit before you. And once again, to reminiscent God's glory in my life. It is almost being 2 years now. I do not know what I have gone through even after my post-COVID period. It was in the month of July 17th. Even before that, in the institutions or in Mangalore, there were so many cases of COVID admitted in the hospital, and nurses were insufficient to be taking care of the patients here. So many wards were converted into COVID wards, and as a result, all the faculty from the College of Nursing was also required to go and work in the wards, and specifically work in the fever clinic. I being the principal of the college, and all of us know it was a very, very apprehensive time. No one wanted to take risk to get into this, and everyone was trying to avoid the same. So when it was supposed to be going to the fever clinic, I had to put the turns for the faculty members every day, few people to go. And I knew that it was not easy for them. So I said, being a leader, let me lead them. So I was the first one to put my name, and I went for a duty to the COVID department, that is specifically for fever clinic. And as I have said in my interview, it said that I was there only for half a day. I was not allowed to do anything because my own students were there. They were saying, sister, don't come close. You stand there. You be just there. You be just. So I was not able to do much. But still, I was supposed to be there for 2 days. But half day I was there. I was having a little bit of headache and a little bit of breathlessness. Meanwhile, in my community also, one of my sister who was working in the medical stores. That also she was working medical store, and she's always inside. She is not coming in contact with patients or patient relatives outside. She is inside the cabin, and she was suffering with the illness. She was admitted she was in the convent first. So in her room, I visited her once or twice or thrice as being the superior of the community. These are the only two things that I can relate. Other than that, I went from the college to the convent, just few steps to walk, and from the convent to the college, of course, through the hospital. I do not know from where I got that infection. I'm still not able to comprehend from where I got that infection. I don't believe that half days just being there in the fever clinic, that also fully dodged with PPE, that was the reason. Yet I actually was a strong person. Healthily, I'm physically fit. I was physically fit, except for some allergic rhinitis always for a few years, and then some little weak lungs. Other than that, I was quite healthy. And with my headache and feeling a little bit of breathless, I had to give my sample. And when I gave my sample late in the evening, the report was supposed to give a sample in the morning. Report was supposed to be declared by 5 o'clock. I was anxious. At the same time, I was sure that I will not be having anything. Report did not come by 5. It was 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock. When the chief nursing officer, one of my own sister who is in my community, she slowly peeked into my room and said, "Sister, your report is positive." I said, "Oh, that is a very bad news." But doesn't matter. I told her, doesn't matter. Now it is night. I don't think I'll have to go to any doctor for taking treatment. Tomorrow morning we shall see what is to be done. That's what I told her. Meantime, she said, "No, I'll ask. I'll ask the doctor, concerned doctor." She called up to the doctor. Doctor said she is highly positive and immediately needs to be admitted to the hospital. So with the few things that I had to carry, I got myself ready. I said bye to my sisters. I said I'll come back soon. Meantime, Sister Zina, one who was already having COVID positive, was already admitted for about 2 days. She was there in the hospital.
Guidelines, please share. Yes, so bad. It's almost fixed.
Sister Jessie, you're muted. You're muted, Sister Jessie.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Since
If you can go back to the phrases,
yeah?
if you can go back to a few more phrases before.
Okay. So after the report, after I got the report in the evening, late in the evening by 8:30, I was asked to get admitted to the hospital, and that is how I landed up in the hospital. And that being the earliest period of COVID, and I being one of the hospital faculty, that also being the principal of the college, served in this institution for several years, everyone was very much, let's say, aware and also surprised how I could land up in the hospital. And of course, as soon as I was admitted, a lot of things began to happen. If I say in the ward, the experience was, specifically I was admitted in a single room where people were all with full of PPE. We are not able to recognize who is who. And they used to come close, not come closer, stand at the door side, keep medicines there. From the cafeteria, food is to come and the tiffin is to come, and they'll keep it at the door side, and they'll say, "Sister, food has come." Nurses will stand there and say, "How are you?" And medicine is kept there. Doctors will stand there and come and say, "Sister, how are you?" And we don't know who is who. Which person is talking to us, we were not knowing. And I being on the bed, not able to get up because of feeling breathless or whatever, still have to go and pick up my own food, my own tiffin, eat for myself, whether I like it or no, nothing to talk, nothing to say. No, it was a feeling of being abandoned. Like as if, I should say in the older term, you are suffering with the acute tuberculosis, uncurable, in the old times, or someone suffering like with AIDS, that if I come close, I will get it. So that's why I should not come close. That's what I felt. And of course, that was natural. That much of fear was there then. Now it is no more that fear. That much fear was there, and people were taking care of themselves. Wherein one fine day, I felt I was no more able to breathe. And I complained to the CNO and I said, I am no more able to breathe. I don't think doctors are doing anything to me. Whatever they are doing is not going to be all right. My headache is just like that. And so then the doctors said, you require more of oxygen or whatever. They shifted me to ICU. In the ICU, after 2 days, every day is X-ray, and their tests proved that I was becoming worse and worse. But then the beautiful thing was that doctor was going on hitting my chest and my back and asking, sister, is it paining? Is it paining? And I was saying, no, it is not paining. And the doctor was saying, they were surprised to say, sister, your lungs are fully gone. You are having highly positive pneumonia. Yet you are saying you are not feeling any symptoms. I wasn't actually, except for breathlessness and fever and headache. I was not feeling anything. And they were surprised. I don't know, other values also were very poor. And that's the reason why doctor said your lungs are collapsing and your other values, blood values also are not good. We need to intubate you. And that's how I was put on ventilator. I was there for an ventilator for about, I think a week on ventilator. I was fully sedated. I do not know anything that was happening during the ventilator. When I was on ventilator, I was not conscious of myself. Whatever has happened to me, that is only what I have listened from. But I had, during my ventilator, I had 3 specific experiences of mine. One experience of experiencing an heavenly ambience. Second, that of a very filthy, unwanted ambience, which I attribute as according to my Christian religion as hell. And the third one in between, which I was where I was so much disturbed, and I attribute it to be the purgatory, where purification takes place and then we are led into heaven. These 3 experiences I have gone through, and they are vivid in my mind even today. May not be to that extent of what I experienced, but they are vivid in my mind even today. After which, after 5-7 days on ventilator, doctors had said we cannot do anything more. That is what my provincial superior and my general other sisters said. This is what message we received, and that is what the message was passed in the group in the WhatsApp by my provincial superior to all the sisters of my province as well as my general to the whole congregation, saying that doctors are saying no hopes, nothing can be done except miracle by God. And that miracle took place. I think for 2 days on ventilator, they were not able to find neither good nor bad. I was the same. And on the last day, I think they were able to find that I was feeling better. Then I was out of ventilator. After out of ventilator, I was given utmost care by the hospital staff, especially by my sisters. I was sent for 1 month of rest to some other community where I was fed well with proteins and other things. Too many medicines, oxygen for 1 more month, and all those things. It is the experience of it makes me feel how important I was considered to be, and I was taken care so well. I am privileged for being a nun, first of all, and being a Christian, being in this institution, being a health professional. I was taken care so well. And I think of those people who have no one to care for when they are suffering, like there's no one to care for. There is someone who will care for, give them more love and affection and needed things. I think Corona could have overcome Corona. So many would not have died. I am grateful also to everyone who cared for me, especially for my nursing fraternity, my students, my staff. I think the message that when I was sick, I've gone through all over the world, and thousands of students, their parents, relatives, friends, prayer groups, and my staff used to say their children used to put up their hands up and pray for parents, principal to be all right. So I believe 100% it is the grace of God that kept me alive, and at present I am here, able to, wanting to commit to myself totally, 100%, as long as I can for the Lord. After I took over back to my responsibility, Post-COVID, some effects were there. Like I used to feel very tired while walking. Few steps walking was not possible. Palpitations were there. I lost almost all my hair. It used to just come into the hand when I used to comb hair. All the hair I lost. Now I at this little, I am having less hair only, but then still all that I had also I lost. I think I do not know whether it is right to say, but I am still having problems with my eyes. I'm not able to see properly now. Doctor says for both my eyes there is cataract. I also suffered with during my COVID. My sugars were very high because they were giving me a lot of steroids. Sugars are very high, and even now I am on medicines for diabetes. It continues, but otherwise I am healthy. It is God's grace. I praise Him. This is in brief. Yeah.
Thank you, sister. Thank you. I think we were able to live through not to that extent that you had gone into the trauma and pain, but at least we could visualize your entry to the hospital, into the ICU, and into your recovery status, and coming to the place where you're sitting now and trying to speak about it with full courage to say that the grace of God was able to lead you through that difficult times. And in this webinar, when we have quite a number of our nurses, probably they would have been the warriors, or they would have experienced people who have gone through this kind of a trauma. Now, is there something specific that you would want to speak to our nurses? Like if suppose we have to take care of patients who are going through this kind of an isolation. And when we as nurses carry a lot of fear in approaching them, like as you had begun to say that we maintained that distance, so you felt so isolated when they were not able to come closer to you. Yes, I owe it to the fear that we carried for the disease. But is there something that we could still be doing better to approach patients who would carry such kind of infection? And what would be your message to us?
One thing that I would like to say is this. We all have a plan of God in our lives. We need to trust that. We need to trust that God has a plan for each one of us. Specifically in my case, I didn't think that I would land up to that stage, but then I landed up to that stage. There are nurses who have cared for patients all throughout their stay for COVID patients, but then they were not infected. There were nurses who tried to run away from the patients. They got infected. They got sick. So I believe, I may not be 100% true, but I believe that if God wants, it will happen. It doesn't mean that we don't have to take our own precautions. We need to take our own precaution, but extra fear, not being ready to do anything for our patients, running away from them, or taking leave saying that I will get sick. If I get sick, my children will get sick, or my husband will get sick, and they are saying that I should not take care of the patient. Then why at all you became a nurse? That is the biggest question that we have. If you are running away when patients are needing you more, if you run away, then why are you a nurse? Because well people don't require a nurse. So that is what I was telling even my staff here as well as students when they were not willing to go and take care of the patients. So taking all precautions that are necessary, in spite of all that, saying that the commitment that I have made to be a nurse and I will serve them in whatever be the reason, whatever be the cost of my life, I should be, as a nurse, I should be able to go close to them, touch them, help them out, listen to them. We should be able to do that, I felt. That's what I felt in the initial stage of my life. But afterwards, once when I was ICU, I should say that nurses were too good in taking care of me in all the ways. I actually felt so humiliated to expose myself to them in all the ways, and they used to do everything for me. When I look at them, I used to feel like crying because that much care every nurse was taking care of me, especially in ICU. But it may not happen in the other wards, common wards, it may not happen. So message to others would be, first is to trust the Lord. Second is to trust my own confidence. To the best of my ability, I will do. Rest is left to the Lord and He will take care of us. That confidence we need to have. Otherwise, there is no point in we being nurses.
Okay, sister. One more question to you.
Yeah.
Now, since this topic is all related in healthcare transformation, which we are moving more into digitalization, can this scenario be handled more? I think we can still have that sensitivity and touch with a digital mode. Like I also said that patients could have their mobiles with them. They could have their WhatsApp video with their near and dear ones. They could stay connected and keep engaged with the near and dear ones. Because we initially did have the fear to say that we should not allow anything to be taken inside. So the kind of an infection control protocol that would be necessary, but still have a connect with the near and dear ones, making them feel they still belong to. Probably minimizing the approach of our nurses, if it is a digital monitoring that was available, so that the frequency of monitoring is also there. The patient safety is also ensured. Did you find that it was a little missing during your care, and we can incorporate more of this digitalization?
Yes. It was really missing at that particular time. Of course, when I was in the ward, I was having my mobile with me. I was having my rosary with me. Those were the two weapons only I was having. Mobile was of great help. I felt though other times mobile we say is a nuisance, but that time when I was sick, mobile was my friend because nobody else was there around. So that was a great help for us. Secondly, of course, my prayer item, that was my rosary. But then if we consider patients that they require, they feel isolated and they need to be happy at that particular time, I think the media instruments, that technology has to be available. That was missing at that particular time. And nobody was allowed to stay also near the patient. At present, everything has changed. Now they stay together and then, nowadays the situation is totally different. And nowadays, nurses also are not afraid and doctors also come close. Everything is now good. The patients don't feel that experience that I had gone through, I don't think present day patients go through it.
Okay.
Yes, that was there. Yes.
Yes,
media, what we said, once it was a nuisance, has become a plus point when we were sick, when I was sick.
So because we thought that with healthcare transformation, how best we can use the digitalization. See, even now on this platform where we are able to connect and experience the journey that you have to go through, I think it has become a boon. So I think anything else, sisters? I really want to speak about, I want to pay my due respect and condolence and homage to our Professor Girijamba Devi, who also underwent the same. She was a secretary of our TNAI, and the entire, I'm sure globally we were all connected to see that we were able to get her back into the kind of a recovery. But extremes have been, and this moment I'm really remembering her, the involvement that she carried and the vibrant energy that she carried. So we lost her, but she has left a trending path. Like if TNAI KSB could take these decisions of taking forward her points of spreading these messages and the learning points to our nurses across, I think this series of webinar began from that kind of an inspiration. I think my due homage and respect to her. And I'm sure we have many such warriors like you who have won this battle and who are setting an example. And I'm sure if we are able to put it into kind of volumes that would be available for us to read, and probably the future generations would be able to experience the path, the journey that we have gone through. I think that could be a way forward.
I have this here.
Oh, look at this.
This is what I have written. This is what I have written for everybody. And so many copies have been taken and so many people are reading it.
Thank you. I think it's great. It's great if it is available. I'm sure the participants would be able to reach out to it and be able to spread it across. Thank you, sister. I'm sure the participants will have questions to you a little later. We'll move to the second person. That is, we have Lissy. Lissy, if you can come on your video.
Yeah, I'm there.
Welcome, Lissy.
Yeah, thank you.
Myself and Lissy share our friendship as we did our BSc nursing together. And Lissy tread the path of multiple journey of being in India and abroad. And of late, she had been the nursing superintendent of the Ramaya Hospital. And during this pandemic, I think she played a very key role in taking the entire workforce of our nursing together to fight this battle. So we would want to hear from you, Lissy, in terms of what were those good things that you got through and what were those challenges that you had to face through this journey, so that we will have some learning points that our participants can take home.
Yeah, thank you, Saroja, for that introduction. And it gives me an immense pleasure to have you all on this webinar. And as I share my experience, I believe that this is going to be a beneficial and, that's going to help all of us around so that we will be able to be better nurses in this, in this universe. So let me just start sharing my PPT. I'll just start with my PPT. Yeah, is it possible for you to see?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, the theme that I got today was to speak on leading nursing teams through uncharted waters. I feel that's an apt one for this situation as far as COVID is being concerned, because yes, we really traveled through the uncharted waters. We were not knowing how to go about, how the situation is going to be, what is going to be the future, are we going to be safe? Nothing. We were not aware of it. Many a day's midnight oil was burnt. Extend hours of untiring work. But every day was a challenge and we never gave up. That was the beauty of it. We never gave up. We as a nursing team, we did something which was very fabulous in terms of patient care. The beginning was this. It was in the month of December that we heard about COVID-19. So we never thought that it's going to come to India. We thought that it's going to be there far from us. But that was not the scenario. It came into India. It has reached Karnataka. Fear started gripping in. How are we going to handle? How is the situation going to be? Are we going to handle it in such a way that we will be able to manage? That was the greatest fear that we had. It reached Karnataka, it reached Bangalore, and reached our hospital also. But before that, lot of preparations went in. We had a lot of preparations going on. The management was so pleased to have so many meetings, brainstorming meetings wherein we could have a lot of discussions to know, multiple meetings were held to know how to go about, how to take care of the patients, how the infrastructure has to be, what modifications has to be done, how the human resource management has to be done. Multiple meetings were held so that the journey was actually very, very calm. Even though we had a lot of critical moments that we had, but still we were able to go through all the scenarios, all the situations, because we had a lot of pre-planning. Planning is the important component that we need to do, because that will help us to go a long way. We did a lot of meetings ahead. The next thing was, the first thing what we did, we converted, even though before the cases we received, we converted one of the Ayurveda hospital, which was 100 bedded, and it was purely occupied. Which was purely occupied. Saroja, can they see my PPT?
Yes. It is.
Yeah. So this COVID hospital, this Ayurveda hospital was entirely converted to a COVID dedicated hospital. It was 100 bedded. Everything had to be shifted because it was a different setup. The wards were fully occupied with your equipments, with your, with your cots and all that. Everything has to be, maybe reshifting was done. All the cots that we had to put, and every bed was, converted to oxygenated beds and with a suction apparatus also. And then the problem was that when we started receiving the cases during the month of March and April, the problem that was in the year 2020, we did not know whether they were positive. And it took so many days for us to get the report. So these nurses were panicking as to, we don't know whether they are positive, whether these cases are negative. We were not very sure of it. But still we considered all the cases as positive when we treated them. But then the nurses were really nervous. It was the beginning. They did not know how to handle the patients. As Sister Jacinta told, they were actually staying far from the patients. They had this apprehension as to, if I contract the disease, what am I going to do? But then that went on. As we see now, we have more personalized care, and that fear has really come down to a greater extent. This whole ward was converted to oxygenated bed, and all the beds were oxygenated. This is how you see the basement floor was totally converted to Dawning area, and inpatient wards were there. The ground floor we converted totally into a Doffing area, and where shower they could have. The first floor area where all the healthcare workers used to stay there. So we provided facility for all the healthcare workers, including nurses. It is let it be the doctor, or it be a housekeeping employee, or the technicians. Anybody was there. Whoever were on duty, we had given them all the facility for them to be at the first floor of that COVID ward, so that all facilities we had provided for them. Then the entrance of that we had converted to registration area, billing area, then MRD, radiology services. So it was totally equipped, and we had a separate entry also, so that they need not enter through the area or enter through the entrance through which the patients are entering. So a separate back door was created, wherein the nurses could enter through that and they come out through that. So that will reduce the infection between the contracting the infection from the patients. So that was the fear that they had. So we created in such a way that the total hospital was converted to a COVID dedicated hospital. Yeah, but then what happened was, that was not the end. We were not able to accommodate all the patients. The surge started being so much. So many patients started coming in, flowing in. We converted the hospital, rare end of the hospital, into a 500 bedded COVID hospital. But at the end, in the second wave, we had patients up to 600, 700 inpatients were there in the hospital. So we increased step by step. Initially, we started with 500 bedded. Lot of planning and infrastructure changes were made, because we had to receive these patients, everything, because we had non-COVID patients also in the ward. They had to be cordoned off. So the infrastructure should be in such a way that they will not mix up with the COVID patients. And these non-COVID patients number started reducing, because they had feared that in case if I contract the disease, what is going to happen? That was the fear that they had. So we had to take all the necessary care that was required to make sure that they were away from the non-COVID patients. And all these beds, all the beds there in the hospital was converted to beds with all the oxygen facility. And we made a separate block, a separate entry itself was made. All this was happened because of the meetings that we had, because of the planning that we had. A separate entry was really created exclusively for taking care of these patients. And the following were the infrastructures that we had made. We had a separate entry for healthcare workers. Even in this 500 COVID bed, a separate entry for healthcare workers to enter was made. The Dawning area was a very crucial area, because they have to be equipped very well, so that they feel, first of all, confident that they will be away from contracting the diseases. That confidence that they should have. They were very scared initially, but then the PPE suits which were there, we had a lot of trainings which were done for them, and all the facilities were given to them in the Dawning area, wherein they could come, where initially we only had supplied the scrub suits for them. They wear the scrub suits which was provided by the hospital. They used to go to the Dawning area, wear all the PPEs, ensure that mask is tight fit. They do the mask fit test, and they make sure that their eyes are, goggles are worn, caps are worn. They would make it very sure that they will not, in no way they would contract the disease. See, I can really tell you that worked out, because when we took the statistics, we have found that people who were, who were working in the COVID area were less infected than the people who were working in non-COVID area. We had seen the statistics has proved that. So the Dawning area is very, very important, that because we need to equip ourselves to make sure that it will not contract the disease. Then the wards was, it was all the normal wards which were converted to COVID wards. So these wards had to be equipped with all the equipment, stationaries, linens, waste management bins, all these according to the guidelines had to be, equipped. And, finally, the wards were extended. Initially, few wards were commissioned. Later, another few more wards, when it got extended, we had to keep all the equipments ready there, seal up those, so that, the infection will not spread to the others. So there was lot of manpower, utilization. There were a lot of work that we had to put in to make sure that the work goes on, and we will be able to manage the patients. Then the doffing area was also very, very important, because that has to be equipped with lot of bins, sanitizers, hypochlorite solutions. All these facilities it has to be kept, when there is any shortages, that has to be looked into. It had to be indented, it has to be replaced. All this had to be done, and we had kept UV chambers also, so that the healthcare workers, once they finish their duty, they enter this chamber, they get themselves sanitized, then they come out, use the hypochlorite solution, and they doff the PPE suit, and then they go for the shower area. Then cameras were fixed even in the doffing area to monitor the doffing procedures. We saw people were not following, they were not appropriate, so cameras was placed in the doffing areas, so that we also could do the surveillance. Next, there was the shower area. The shower area was after the doffing area, wherein we provided all the facility, bathroom facility for them, the new scrub suits for them to wear once they, after the shower, they have hair and body bath, shower gel, everything was provided to them, and everything was in place, so that will not affect any of the healthcare workers, because they are putting lot of effort in taking care of these patients. And refreshments were also provided to them once they were off their duties. So all these facilities was provided to each and every healthcare worker. We never differentiated. Even the PPE suits which was owned by a doctor was one same type of PPE suits was there for all the health workers. We never differentiated them, because they should not feel that we are not being taken care, so that will not in turn not affect the patients also. The wards were converted to ICUs. Lot of setup had to be done, because we had shortage of ICUs, and we had lot of patients. The number of patients requiring ICU care was enormous. So we had to facilitate for the ventilators. ACs were not there in the ICUs. That had to be put into place. Cameras were put in the ICUs and the wards for the surveillance, and also for counseling the patients. Then also we had dialysis. Lot of patients had dialysis. Initially it was very few, but later as the days went by, there were a lot of patients who required dialysis. So around 20 beds were converted to dialysis units. So that setup was also, that infrastructure changes also had to be done. The windows were converted to areas where they can receive the medicine, since they could not go and see the pharmacy. People would dispatch it near the windows, wherein the nurses would have access to the medications. Then signages for all the facilities, where exactly, because one day if the ward increases, the donning area would be changed. So we had to put signages, and we had to orient all of them to make sure that they are aware that where exactly is the donning area, where is the doffing area, the shower area, where they have to reside. Frequent communication with all the healthcare workers kept us in par with the changes which had happened. And entry doors to the COVID wards was made one way, so that no patients will come out from the COVID wards. So that when the healthcare workers, after the donning, they enter directly, those wards where non-touch technique was used, and then they could enter through that. And cylinders, you all know the way we struggled during the COVID, the wave 2. We had lot of shortages, but then we had to make sure that these B-type cylinders were not at all sufficient for us. Then we went on for the A-type cylinders. The stretchers were converted to accommodate these A-type cylinders, so that we can have the supply of oxygen for a longer period of time before we shift them from the triage area either to the wards, to the ICUs, because they are scattered about, because there are so many patients who are there. So we need to look into that. Next is war rooms were created, wherein we needed additional support for the medical staffs and also for counseling the patients. Counseling used to happen from the war rooms. Then radiology. Initially, radiology services were in the radiology department, but later, when the patient surge increased, it was impossible to shift all the patients just for the sake of X-rays. So what we did was we created a radiology room inside the COVID ward itself, and the radiology technicians were put on duty, so that they will work on duty and at the time of admission itself, or the X-rays at the time of admission will be done immediately and then sent to only to the wards. Triage area was set up. The screening of patients would be done in the triage area. Lab room was there. Whatever initial lab investigations has to be done, all the samples used to be collected initially. ECG used to be done. X-ray used to be taken, and then only patients used to be shifted to the ward unless they are critical. If they are, ICU patients, we used to immediately shift them to the ICU. Separate exit. Initially, it was the same exit for the entry and exit for the patients, but that caused a lot of chaos. We didn't know which are the patients coming in, which are the patients getting discharged. So a separate exit was, initiated. So through this, the discharged patients would come out. They used to get, come out through this discharge area, and we used that place also for shifting the patients to the mortuary. Dead bodies were shifted through that way, so that will not affect the patients who are coming into the hospital, because first of all they are very scared, and if they see something like that, that will be very disgusting and they feel very demotivated. So we changed the route of the exit for the discharged patients, and this also a lot of changes in the infrastructure. And the ward was all set in. The first COVID patients we received on 20th June 2020. It was a reality and it was true. So what happened henceforth, we lot of supplies was required, because we needed ventilator to be procured. We had to procure lot of shifting monitors, when shifting ventilators also was required, because in case if we have to shift the patients for investigations, we had to use that. HFNC machines were procured. Lot of PPE kits based on the size. PPE kits, what type of PPE kits we use also was very important. The sizes were very important. Initially we took all the normal sizes, but that was not sufficient. We had to had triple XL and different sizes of PPE kits as was required. Linen was we went through a lot of shortages, but then procurement was during those time we had a lot of difficulties because there were no suppliers for us. We had to compromise with the people for their quality and even for the amount also. But then we procured a lot of linens. Cots were purchased. Digital thermos, because we even had the non-COVID patients there. Digital thermometers were bought in plenty. Pulse oximeters were bought in plenty. And N95 masks, adhesive plasters, scrub suits, digital BP apparatus. Lot of supplies had to be bought and kept ready in order to take care of these patients, to make sure that there will be no shortage of supplies during the care of patients. The next thing that we looked was, managing the manpower. Manpower management was very, very crucial. Human resource management is the toughest one which has to be done. First of all, we had to identify the pool of health workers. That was because we had some of them who were not fit for the duty. That means they were suffering either from chronic diseases, or they had some issues which they were not able to be posted in the COVID wards. So we had to make a pool of fit and unfit nurse employees. These people who are unfit for the COVID wards were posted in non-COVID areas. So that's how we manage. And those who were fit went to the COVID areas for monitoring for the patient care. So that was a big exercise. They had to go through a lot of investigations. They had to go through a lot of formalities to make sure that whether they are fit or unfit. And they were given 6 hours of duty, and putting a duty roster was not very easy, because they will have a lot of problems during that time, but still we sticked on to the duty rosters. They had initially, but this changed here later. We had 8 days of duty and 7 days of quarantine. That was the biggest problem for us, because we need to arrange staffs, because the staffs who are in quarantine will not be able to do the duty. So we had to make sure that we have 2 sets of people who work on duty and at the same time who are under quarantine. So that was difficult. Now this quarantine, people who were were on hospital duty, we made accommodation for them in the hospital campus, because it was many of them were dorms, many of them were together. So we provided accommodation for the healthcare workers who were working and who were on duty. For them we made accommodation in the campus. Scrub suits were provided for them. Security was an issue because hostels were little far. So when they used to come for the night shift starts in the night 2 o'clock. It starts at 2 o'clock. So they have to be accompanied by the security people, and we were worried with whether that will cause any problems. So security issues was a problem. Duty roster, some people, when you put them for duty, they say that no, it is not possible, or maybe they will contract with the COVID diseases, they will be unable to come for duty, or maybe they have some family issues. So putting a duty roster was not very easy. Every week it used to change. Initially it was every day, then we changed it to every week there was a change in the duty roster. So this is how it went on. Then the next one was the quarantine facility for all these nurses after their duty were arranged in the hotels. So because they used to have individual rooms there, because we were scared that the people who work there will be they will be the person who will communicate the disease. So that is why we gave them individual rooms in the hotel. So arrangement of the management was so good enough to provide these facilities. So but it was difficult for us because we had to look into the transportation, we had to look into their food arrangements, security related issues, all these issues were there. I can just share you one of my experience that we had. Once few of our nurses were staying very close to the college, to the hospital. So then what happened is once they finished their duty and went to their place, it was a hotel which was hired for nurses only. The public came to know that these people are nurses who are working in the hospital. They really outrighted, they protested against these nurses. They did not allow them to enter into their quarantine facilities, into the hotels. And by then what happened was we took them in our transportation bus. We took them to another place which was little more interior. There also the people started protesting so much. We felt very disappointed the way the public had reacted to it. But now they accept us so well. It was all, it was all because of ignorance that it happened. And then the public protested so much. So again, they had to change that place, and that place was not at all suitable for them. It was all midnight calls that we used to get that we want to get back. And then all arrangements were made them to accommodate them in the hospital itself. And that's how the accommodation started. Even in the quarantine facility also we started in the campus. So that took a lot of toll for us also, because we need to arrange for them also in the hospital, in the campus itself. Then once they were in the hotel, they had to be brought after 7 days for checking their RT-PCR test. Once their RT-PCR test is negative, they would go home. But if it was positive, again they had to be quarantined. That was really, really very difficult for us. Then in case if they become quarantined in the rooms in the hostel, then that room has to be sanitized. So all these were the difficulties that we went through. Housekeeping deployment was really difficult because we needed many housekeeping employees. So what we did is we took a lot of people who were willing to come for duty. We did not have time to check their backgrounds. So because of that, we had to face lot of difficulties. There were a lot of thefts which were happening. There were people who would run away from their duties. So we had lot of difficulties that we had to face. And COVID duties also, the nurses used to have health issues. Many of them were suffering from COVID, and maintaining their attendance was also not very easy. Then we changed from the digital to face recognition. We changed it so that will not be a source of infection from one nurse to the other. Then COVID allowance, the management was pleased to give the COVID allowance for all the nurses who worked in the ward. So managing that was also not an easy task. Relieving the staffs from duty in case of any emergency. Relieving them from the duty. How do we relieve them? Some emergency comes to them. Who will go for the next duty? Lot of planning was required. Even COVID coordination in the RT-PCR test also. Then once if they become positive, nurses, I still remember one of my nurse who became positive. We the nurse managers, we were so disappointed seeing her. We even actually cried because we were not able to do. We felt like hugging her and consoling her, but we couldn't do that because the situation was such that we used to feel so disappointed seeing the way that they have worked and few of them became positive. So disclosing the positive reports was not easy. It was very, very difficult. Shortage of manpower was enormous, but the nurses supported so well. They were motivated by providing all the services because the management provided them all the services. They were ready to do, extra. They went an extra mile. And the non-COVID patients, as the days went by, the patient load became increased. We had a lot of non-COVID patients. We had to shift the other hospital. So initially we shifted our OPD patients, we shifted our ward patients, we shifted our ICU patients, we shifted our OT cases, started maybe reallocating to the other hospital. So that required lot of coordination. We had to coordinate because from one hospital to other hospital to non-COVID hospitals, it was very, very difficult. That also required lot of coordination. Then training. We had lot of protocols we put in place, how to manage a patient, where dead on arrival, mortuary services, COVID OT, and how to manage waste management practices, managing mild and moderate and severe cases. All these protocols we put in place, and continuous training was given to all the nursing staffs, either in person or it was through Zoom. We used to give training for all them, how to do the disinfection procedures. All this was done. Dead body packing, that was the real apprehension that they had. So they were trained on them as to how to pack these bodies in case of COVID case, what extra precaution has to be taken, what are the things that they have to use. All this training was given. Then we saw that all of them were oriented to the COVID hospital. Now, COVID hospital infrastructure is completely changed. Many of them did not know where exactly are the wards, where it is being situated. So before we initiated this, we made sure that they were given an orientation to the COVID ward. Trainings were scheduled. We did a lot of demonstration on how to manage the patients on ventilators, on HFNCs, and we conducted a lot of Zoom classes also. App was also developed wherein they can themselves train themselves, and how to don and doff technique was also trained with the help of these apps. So that helped them to get themselves equipped and also become more confident to take care of the patients. And we set up the sample collection kiosk also. Training of the healthcare workers was very, technicians were trained as to how to collect the sample. They were initially panicking as to whether we will contract the diseases. A training was given, how to create an SRFID, how to maintain the records, how to dispatch the sample, and in case if the patients are unable to come to the kiosk, how sample has to be collected in the ward. All these protocols were put in place to make sure that collection of sample, and we had our own lab which started providing us the reports of RT-PCR, which was very, very helpful, because the day you give your sample, by evening we used to get our reports. That helped us a lot way. And then we had suspected ward, because initially when this patient come, we do not know till the report we get whether these patients are positive or negative. So we created a suspected ward and a suspected ICU. Lot of coordination was required, because report is not at 10. They required acute care. Then shifting of these patients, once they become positive, we had to shift them. Healthcare workers' safety was very important. Excessive turnover of patients. Report comes, they have to be shifted, and other patients will come for admission. So the suspected ward was really very difficult to manage. We put people who are very efficient to make sure that we will not lose many patients. So this is how management of linens, acute shortage of linens. So we scheduled the timing of changing the linens. Changing of linens in the COVID area and changing of linens in the non-COVID area was changed, so that we can manage the linens. Disinfection of linens. Initially, when the patients were less, we used to disinfect in the ward itself, but that was no more possible. That was because it would take lot amount of time. Nurses would not have find time to do the other work. So then we shifted that work, we dispatched that, and we shifted that activity to the laundry. So laundry people were trained to wear PPEs, how to manage the infected linen, how to disinfect it, and how to dispatch it. And maintaining the stock was also a Herculean task, because there was chances of missing the linen. There were not many people who were maintaining the linen, so that issues were also we had to face. Then dietary services. Initially everything was through the triage area, but that was a big challenge. So we had another area, a separate entrance for the dietary services, so that will not affect the admission or the discharge of the patients. But these dietary people also had to be trained, because they were scared. There are people who have left their job itself because of the fear of going to the COVID wards. But many of them, the nurses really helped us out in this dietary services, even the housekeeping services. We put in the physiotherapy department. Lot of people who were not involved directly into COVID services got involved in the dietary services, because it is not easy to satisfy all the people, especially in terms of food. They will have lot of complaints. There was a separate cell which was there, wherein they would use to receive these calls from the patients when they had any dietary issues, and based on that the dietary changes were done. and transport the services for external services. For example, X-ray was already done in the COVID ward, but CT scan patients had to be taken outside. NICU, we had an NICU which used to take care of COVID babies. So there also we need to shift the patients, and OT also. Operation theater was in another block. So we need to transport. For this transportation, we needed ambulance services. We need people who will be able to transport the patients, especially pre-operatively and post-operatively from the COVID wards, and also the use of PPE in the OTs. They were also very apprehensive when they started wearing the PPEs, but then training was given and how to decontaminate the OT following the positive cases, and how to shift the patients, for example, an LSCS case to the labor room where we are providing services even for the COVID. So in each area, specialty wise, we had areas wherein they used to take care, so that we can, in the same way, we can post the nurses there also, so that the other patients will not be, the care will not be compromised. So a lot of coordination was required. Psychologically, the nurses were really affected, because the initial stage, they thought the huge workload, the number of patients, and frustrations with the death of patients had caused lot of psychological problems in the nurses. We had to motivate them a lot, and the medical college had started online training support for these nurses, so that they will be motivated to to do their work better. And because they also, back home, when they go home, when they leave and come here, 8 days of duty, 7 days of quarantine, 15 days they are away. So when they are away from their home, they have additional responsibilities. They have people, and in case if they become positive again 7 more days. But then that and all reduced. Now we do not have that, but that was during the initial stage. The fear of contracting the illness, anxiety, a lot of insomnia, but still we had very few nurses after COVID duty who had contracted with the diseases. They overcame all this. They were really a backbone for the for running the COVID was. Their work was really appreciated because the way they took the responsibility. And some of the items also had to be streamlined. Nursing documentation, it was very difficult for them to document because of the fog which was developed because of the goggles and the shield, the time constraint, because of the workload. So the nursing documentation was made even more practical, wherein they used to it will be very easy for them to document all the nursing documentation was made very easy. Then medications, separate entry was made. Medications return was a problem because it will be already infected. So there were other protocols which were developed as to, in case if medicine has to be returned, for how long you have to keep it away from the COVID ward, then it has to be replaced back. Lockers were kept. All these policies were put in place. Then regarding the waste management was also a Hercules task, because the amount of waste which was generated was enormous. We started with small bins. That was no way sufficient, and every 1 hour we had to remove those, empty those bins, because it used to get filled, because these PPE kits are so, the sizes, even though the weight is not much, the size is so much that these bins used to fill very fast. And initially the storage was also an issue. That was because according to the guidelines, we used to put all together, all COVID waste together. We had labeled that, and we had all the instructions which was placed, how to don and off the PPE. But then what happened was these COVID waste got mixed up. Then the guidelines which came up said that they have to segregate the waste based on the color coding. So then we had to re-insist, telling them, do as you did in the non-COVID area, you have to segregate the waste. So it took little time for us to reorient them as to how to manage the COVID waste. And then the guidelines also says that we have to disinfect the COVID waste with 1% hypochlorite solution. So we had to train them as to that has to be done, and that was also been done. And how to dispose, what is the time of disposal, who will be arranged for disposal, and how the agency people will collect the COVID waste directly for final dispatch. All this was trained, and the doffing area had to be increased. Initially we started with 2 rooms, but that was not sufficient. We had to increase the doffing area. Bigger bins were procured, and there were improper segregations. So then we had to put the ICNs on duty. So these ICNs were not many in number. So what we did that that when the ICNs were posted, we send them randomly at many hours of the time, so that they will make sure that they will follow the practices of proper segregation. And camera was also there to do the surveillance as to proper segregation was also done. So this was all the arrangements that we've done. So I can surely tell that even though we traveled through the uncharted waters, it did not overflow us, but we overcame them. God really helped us to overcome them. That's all because of the efforts of the management and the support of all the healthcare workers. We were able to, overcome all the obstacles that we had. We learned a lot of lessons from that. At present, it is streamlined to a greater extent that they can manage as to how many numbers of patients they receive. Also, they'll be able to manage, because initially it was a real challenge. We had a lot of issues in place, but everything went in a smooth move. As this clouds and the water that you see, everything is clear, because they have the protocols in place. They were trained and they have gone through these situations. And I hope that this will be helpful to many of the participants here. Thank you, Saroja, once again for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on, or my experiences on how to manage the COVID was.
Thank you, Lissy. I was living through all those memory lanes. We had gone through these lanes, but I'm sure when we are able to share it with all our participants here, who else other than you and Sister Jessie can be the champions to advocate this development among our youngsters. Sister Jessie, being the COVID warrior as well as a COVID survivor, had fought the battle of winning and being a champion of life, has set an example. And you, as a leader of COVID warriors, have set a big example for us to take through. I'm sure now we have learned to live the new normal.
Kindly.
I really thank both the champions who have advocated to us and left certain lessons for us. I'm sure the seed that is sown in the fertile soil of the participants here I'm sure we are having 45 participants, including few of us who are coordinating for this. This seed would be in that fertile soil of youngsters who are growing to be the future leaders, be it in the schools or colleges of nursing, or be it at the hospitals. They are going to live this kind of experience. I'm sure it is not going to be new and difficult for them. We have already passed through that, and there are a lot of learnings for them. And I hope these learnings will remain with them and they'll be able to put it to practice. I really thank both the champions. It was an excellent live-in memories for us to cherish and to take it forward. Thank you, Sister Jessie, and thank you, Lissy. And I'm sure our secretary, Sister Dr. Hema, has shared a feedback form that is necessary to be filled by the participants to get your certificates. I also give this few moments, that is around 5 to 10 minutes, for your questions to the champions. Participants, any questions, you can raise your hands and then pose your question to the champions here, be it Sister Jessie or Madam Lissy.
No.
What other topics would you like to
Community.
Any questions? Both of them had no books to refer. It was their life. It's really informative and a quick orientation to clinical arena in COVID patients. Any questions, Sunita? You can post your question in the chat box. Lissy, one question for you.
Yeah, tell me.
I know the challenges that we had to face through all these, the 2 years, has given us a new normal. Do you say that we, as the healthcare professionals, are prepared to fight any battle of this kind or even worse for the future?
Yeah, that's what I was telling. The initial part was a struggle. But then once we came to know about the course of the disease, how to be managed, how to manage the infrastructure, how to manage the human resource. Definitely, this is going us help. This will help us to take us a long way. Be it any situations, be it the worse than this, our nurses will be ready to do that because it was a real experience. Yeah.
Thank you, Lizzie. Sister Jessie, sister, if you can unmute, a question for you. Yeah.
Please tell me.
Is this going to be a part of our curriculum for the future?
I think so. It's going to be added in our community textbooks, specifically K Park and other community textbooks going to be added. And I think even if it's not going to be added, we need to add it and teach about it to our younger generations.
Yes, I think there's a lot of things that we need to incorporate.
Yes. And as Madam Lizzie said, I think we nurses are strong enough. There are nurses, while we have some nurses who are timid, there are quite a lot of nurses who are strong and are ready to give their life for any type of disease and fight the battle.
I think we are proud to have our warriors. I think we need to bring them out into the forefront and make them realize that the profession has got
I think what I feel is, I think what we need to do is, as we teachers, and principals, we have to motivate our kids. They want to take leave and they want to go home when there are such type. No, we have to push them into the situation and ask them to face. And most of the time, it is also the other way. Students are ready, but parents are not ready, and parents are frightened of their children getting sick. I think we have to fight and then see that our students get sufficient courage to face the challenges, and they are proud of the choice that they have made. Now it is COVID, and in the future we will have something more, which is more dangerous maybe in the world. So our students have to be ready for it. Yes.
And I think with this transforming healthcare, combining with digitalization, many more to come in. The series will not end here. This is just the beginning, the first series. And we look forward that the TNAI KSB would be able to take many more series and make this platform active and available to all our young nurses of the future. Thank you to both of you.
Saroja ma'am, I have a question for Sister Jacinta.
Yes.
So first of all, thank you so much, Saroja ma'am, for moderating this wonderful session. And thanks a lot to both the speakers. I'm immensely grateful because I don't think we get to hear people's experiences, the first-hand experiences. So thank you so much to Sister Jacinta and Madam Lizzie for really sharing your stories of courage and determination. So thank you so much. I have a question for Sister Jacinta. Sister, just wanted to know, because many of us have, we just had fever, we just had cough, and then we were thinking that we were dying. Okay, so what made you feel, how were you resilient? Like, what courage did you get, and how were you resilient through those? I think it was around 3-4 months, sister?
Yes, ma'am. From July 27th, I joined back for duty only in the month of November. I joined back for duty.
Can you tell us, Claire, just how did you get that resilience?
Yeah, I just attribute it to the prayers that I received. The prayers that I received. First was my own religious life commitment, that the confidence that I had. I would still now tell to everyone who is suffering with any type of disease, a positive outlook for the disease and the confidence that we can have, saying that I'll get well. In my case, I was thinking that I'll get well. At the same time, I was also ready to die, 100% ready to die. I was prepared to die. So in both the senses, I was ready. That confidence was there. I was ready to die, self-confident to die, confident to live, both. So that one was my major weapon. Second was my own prayer. I must say, not boastingly, but I must say I was united to the Lord. I could pray and spend a lot of time with prayer. Third thing, I had a lot of prayers from outside. I being the first person being suffering here with that intensity, whole hospital, my management, all the doctors in the management here, all the students, faculty, they were almost everybody was thinking of me and their family members and their friends. So a lot of prayers and sacrifices were made for me. Fourth thing was, of course, it was a experimentary period. All the medicines that were possible were pushed onto me as an experimentally guinea pig. Everything for that matter was pushed onto me. Doctors were taking so much of struggle to see what was best and what can be done for sister. That way I received, I should say, 100% positive vibrations from all the way. I could perceive that. I could feel that everybody is thinking of me. I think that was what made me get well better and faster. Yes, those positive vibrations, that love, that prayers from everybody.
Lots of information. Really, really powerful. Very powerful. Thank you.
Very powerful.
Yeah, it is. It is. Even now people who, when they look at me, they say, yesterday, other day, once a priest came, he saying, you are a resurrected person. Even people who come to my office say, sister, we still think of you, we pray for you, we cried and prayed for you. That itself, somebody's one tear goes to the Lord, to God, then I think it has blessing. So that is what has happened to me.
Thank you so much, sister.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? As we are nearing to our time slot, I'm sure you would be able to mail. Dr. Hema, is there possibility that they can keep in contact with the champions?
We can give, share their emails once they, we can share their emails.
Yeah, Lissy and Sister Jessie, is it okay for you to be contacted by the participants if they would want to clarify something from you?
No issues, no issues. They can do it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, participants. Dr. Hema, anything else that you would want to add on from as a part of TNAI KSB, the secretary?
No, madam, thank you so much. Thanks to all the participants for actively participating, and thanks to I don't know words to express thanks to Madam Jacinta and Madam Lissy. And I would also like to thank our President, Dr. Giri, and Vice President, Madam Larissa, and all the EC members for supporting me in this endeavor. Thank you, Madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Madam, yeah, people can leave the meeting because it's on. It's a little delayed with the YouTube. So maybe we just I'll hold it on and then I will complete the call.
Sure.
So people who you can leave the meeting once the meeting is over. Actually, I'll wait for Sister Jacinta to finish in the YouTube and then I'll leave the meeting.
Okay. Lyssy's is recorded.
Yes, everything is recorded. Now I have stopped the recording.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hema. I think this was a great learning for us. So with healthcare transformation, there is digitalization even in our learning.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Lissy.
Saroja, thank you for the opportunity. I think if we take it to the students, that will be even more the participants, and because nurses would have already gone through.
Yeah. So what
many
we wanted
students are attending, madam, through YouTube link.
Oh, okay.
Since the number of participants are only 100 here, we have asked most of the colleges to join via YouTube link,
fine.
And they have
That's
joined
fine.
via YouTube link.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
Look forward for the feedback, Dr. Hema.
Yeah. Yes.
We'll look, so that the second series topic also we would be able to get.
Okay then, Saroja. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Can I leave?
Yes, ma'am. You can leave. I will end the meeting after just waiting for them to finish.
Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Bye. Yeah. Babu, you leave the meeting.